deal with tagging,
Yeah.
or whether we need tagging to begin with.
Yeah. All right. So the main problem we are trying to resolve here is making sure that it is simple to figure out what version of which component we are in, right?
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the omnibus pipeline is that when we tag on dev, that kicks off a pipeline, and dev knows which versions of GitLab CE and GitLab EE to grab based on based on this tags in those repos, right?
Omnibus knows which things to pull from based on the version files inside of the repository of Omnibus. So in Omnibus GitLab, you have Gitly version files, that's GitLab Rails version file, pages, and so on. Those files get updated from the side of release tools. So in regular branches, in master branch, for example, all of the version files have master for each of the components. When we actually tag in release tools will check the version files based on the GitLab CE and E repository. So whatever is in that file at that moment will get updated in Omnibus, committed, and then Omnibus will pick it up from there.
Right, and I'm looking at, I just sent you a link to the tagging job that we do. This kind of gives you a nice overview of everything that's happening. So you're saying that the versions in Omnibus are updated here.
Yep. So what happens first is CE and E get cloned. Whatever is found at that time, right, at that branch, the tag is created on CE and E, and after that, in the same pipeline, Omnibus GitLab gets cloned. That specific tag gets checked out, or rather, whatever is in that specific tag inside of GitLab Rails will then be added to Omnibus, and then you see that being committed. So git commit message update version to 11.90 RC7, and the tag gets pushed.
Right. Yeah, so that much is clear. So I'm thinking like we probably want to keep tagging, right? Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to figure out.
Probably be way more difficult than needed.
So I guess then all that's really necessary for us, I think, is to come up with what is the name of the branch that we create weekly, and what is the name of the tag that we create daily. And
how to submit the correct SHA for GitLab Rails code, right? Unless we always want to fetch head.
And I kind of put in this issue that it's just basically finding the last green commit. Right? Because the way I sketch this out is that on Sunday we look for the last green commit for GitLab EE, GitLab CE. We create the new branch for that week, and then we kick off a build.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So for the branch name and the tag name, this is where it gets a little tricky. I don't think we want to use major and minor releases at all. Like, I don't think it makes any sense, right? Like, we should use something else. And I was just gonna say like year, month, and week number for the branch.
I don't like that.
And I know you don't like it, but give me a better idea. Like, I don't have any other suggestions.
So the reason, again, why I don't like it is it's not giving us any sort of real information. That's the problem.
We need to somehow tag where No, let's just talk the branch name for a second. For the branch name, what would tell you the most information? I mean, we're creating this branch on Sunday.
Well, what I think is important for us to know is in which part of the cycle we are at. So,
Yeah.
major minor might not be offering quite a lot of information, but it does allow us to know which release cycle we are in. So this is why the version file should have been updated to 11.10.pre, because that tells us we are in 11.10 cycle, development cycle, right? Because we are now in 11.9 release cycle. So it kind of allows us to know where we are at.
Okay, so for the branch name, I initially thought I would do major, minor, and week number as the branch name. Because you need to have, because we're creating a new branch on every Sunday, right? So it has to be, or major, minor, and then the day, like year, month, day. I mean, it has to have something. We need to have something. We're creating a new branch every Sunday, which is in the same major.minor release. So what do you think?
So let's just step a tiny bit back here and think about our actual goal, because this is right now an intermediate step, right? Like this is for us only to speed things up a bit and see like what kind of breakage we have with doing.
Yeah.
So what we want to achieve in the end is not even have a special branch, right? Like just tag based on whatever is there in master at that moment.
So you think like, okay, so you're thinking like create a branch on demand, like, right? Like, if you don't need a branch, don't create one.
I think it's going to simplify things if we do create a branch right now. But what I'm trying to say right now with this stepping back is what kind of work do we need to do in order to not duplicate that effort, right? Like we need to know which commit we want to actually include, right? And we need to be able to do that in an automated fashion. So what Skarbek did there was he created that item that fetches only the commit that is green, right? So we can build from the green commit. So that kind of overlaps. What else do we need? When we don't have a branch, when we only have a master branch, we will at any point need to have a way to specify a temporary branch because of, if we have an outage, we'll have to temporarily branch off, right? And only use that branch for the moment. That could be that stable branch. So we are actually not building out anything different. The only piece of info that we are doing right now is figuring out the name of the branch. Otherwise, it's gone, same, right?
It's gone from a monthly stable branch to the way I see it, a weekly stable branch.
And then from a weekly stable branch to no stable branch, or rather one branch.
Yeah, right. Eventually, I guess ideally we would. I don't know whether we'll ever get to the point where.
I don't know as well.
Yeah.
But we kind of need to keep it in perspective and expect that it might happen.
Yeah.
So that we don't duplicate work. All right. Well, in that case, it's just branch naming that is confusing us right now. So let's think about what would need to happen when we are in that situation where we branch off from master. How are we going to name those branches to begin with?
Right. That's kind of where I got stuck, because I started with, okay, we'll just call it major.minor or major-minor week number or some kind of incrementing number for every time we create it. But I think the issue with that is like, well, how do we determine what major and minor is? Major is probably something we just set manually and we'll update it whenever. Minor is sort of just like tracks to the month, right? Like you could probably figure it out automatically based on what month you're in. But then I was thinking like, well, maybe it doesn't matter. Like maybe we should just use a date timestamp, because if we're tracking it to the month anyway, like why not just say, year, month, and then week number. And that's kind of where I landed with the branch name. What do you think? Or do you have any other ideas? Or would you prefer major dot minor just so that we know where we are in the release cycle? I mean, that also is nice.
I'm trying to find a way to manage expectations, right? I'm trying to find a way to inform people of where we are at in the process, but also disconnect them from the old way of thinking, where we were tied to a stable branch specific to a specific release. I mean, how do other companies do it? They have a special named branches, right? Like developed or pre or whatever else. But that's just a slower running master, honestly. So
I think most other companies probably would deploy from the tip of master and then create branches on demand. And also, we kind of have this difficulty, right, where we have multiple. I know companies have multiple repositories like we do, but we don't deploy independently. Like, you know, we kind of gather everything together first.
Yep.
I actually think it's possible we could create. If we're basically deploying from tag, not from branch, right now.
Correct.
We could create branches on demand. I think the problem here is that when we have a build deployed to staging and a developer sees a serious regression, he needs to make that MR as soon as possible. Having the branch already created makes it easier. Like he can just.
But for whom?
For the developer to create an MR against master and an MR against the branch that he knows. So he knows that commit will be picked up on tomorrow's build. Otherwise, we have to create, as soon as he spots the regression, he's going to have to create the branch. And we're also dealing with like week-long.
Yep.
And I think it's pretty guaranteed within a week we're going to have a regression.
I know.
Want to pick. So I'm kind of like keep on coming back to, I think we should create the branches in advance on Sunday. We just need to come up with a name and something that we can programmatically, come up with a name that we can automatically come up with.
Jar, I'm sorry, I'm thinking here a bit as well. So don't think that I'm kind of delaying an answer, but I'm just trying to think like we're not special. Like others are doing this as well. So I just am trying to like figure out where we are, like what kind of problem are we running into? We want to do all of the automation ourselves. So from the developer's perspective, I would love to not have to think about branch names at all. I, as a developer, would like to always target master branch. And how this ends up in a release is not my problem. I want to be able to show with my merge request the importance of having this deployed as soon as possible, right? So what we are doing right now is we have pick into stables to show that this is important to pick into the next release. So maybe that's a way for us to think about this as well. Maybe we should create a system where we have that special label that gets used by the cherry picker, right?
Yes.
And the cherry picker will create a branch if it doesn't exist already on demand. And the rest of the release tooling is going to be just following whatever the cherry picker did, or rather whatever the branch name was created at that time. And we might then get away completely from the weekly branches situation that are going to just like sit there and possibly confuse people further if we think of the branching naming. So the special branches could be created based on the SHAs, I don't know, whatever we decide, but then we get out of the business of figuring out the naming for this longer running, slower master branch.
Right.
And that gets us also very much closer to what we wanted to do to begin with. Is that too much work? That's too much work, right?
I mean, I do see. So another approach you could take is instead of creating a new branch every Sunday, what if we just reuse the same branch every Sunday? Now, the disadvantage would be is that
you need to sync things, right? Merge.
you would need to, yeah, you would need to update, but you kind of have to do that anyway, right? Like, I mean, it should be fine. Like you should be able to just update on Sunday. You just take your basically the same thing we have now. You take your stable branch, but we would update it from master every Sunday. Now the disadvantage is that let's say we do that and then that build doesn't go anywhere because there's so many problems. Now we have to fix a regression from the previous release or the previous week, right? Where you make that change because you lost that branch, right? So maybe that doesn't work.
But if we ensure that always a single source of truth for developers is master, then they don't have to think about any other branch. So when you actually do a fast forward for that weekly branch, theoretically, none of the work is going to be lost, or rather, none of the work is going to cause a merge conflict or anything like that because it's a fast merge, right?
Correct. Yeah, and this is one. I think we can do it this way. I just like, yeah, I just don't know if it's safe enough, right? Because do you understand the kind of scenario I was saying? Like, you know, you have the previous week's build on production, then it comes Sunday, and then you update whatever the latest crap is on master, and then that's like DOA, doesn't like there's problems, right? So now we need to fix a regression from the previous week. Now we'll have to rewind. Like we don't have a branch at that point. So I don't know. I'm part of me is saying like branches are cheap. Let's just create a new branch every Sunday and come up with like a name that we can use. But your idea, I like this idea of like the developer only has to worry about creating an MR for master. I think the issue there is going to be like we need the developer to handle conflicts that could arise with the branch that, right? Like, I mean,
no, because when are the conflicts going to happen? The conflicts are going to happen only if we have two branches changing the same thing. And we are not, right? Like that branch, the only difference between those two branches is timing, right? Like some things are going to be picked before others. So that could theoretically go wrong. But Git should be smart enough to resolve those things for us because we only have a slower running branch than anything else.
I don't know. Like, okay, Sunday we create the branch. On Thursday we find a regression. The source file that has the regression went through a major refactoring on master. So now the developer creates an MR against master, but when we try to pick that MR into the branch that was created on Sunday, the previous Sunday, there could be conflicts, and that's right.
True.
So I think if we're going to create even a week-long branch, I think it's sort of unavoidable that we're going to have to ask the developer to create two MRs, one for master and then one for like, which sucks. Unless if I can't. I hate this.
I mean, honestly, it feels like it's probably more worthwhile our time if we just jump directly to thinking about how do we do this directly from master, but we can't.
If we want to think how we could do this directly from master, then at some point we need to freeze changes.
Yeah.
We could delay that until like week 3 or something, and then
I think I don't even like thinking about the unknowns that brings at the moment. Okay, Jar, I think this is getting a bit too complex. So let's go back to our weekly branching, and let's just think about that for a sec.
Okay.
It's not going to work. Like the problem I have with this is like we can jump to that new state, but I can already see like so many things going wrong.
Okay.
So what is our main problem at the moment? Our main problem at the moment is naming of the branch, right?
Naming of the branch, yeah. Whether it has the major and minor built in, which I think could be nice because it gives you some context for where we are in the release cycle. And it would, if we do major and minor, it's really a matter of how do we determine what the minor version is. It kind of tracks with a month, so we can sort of like base it off of what month we're in. And then other than major and minor, you need some other identifier because we're going to have like 3 of these branches, I think.
Yeah.
Week 2 and week 3. So would it be just W1, W2, W3, or just like -1, -2, -3, or we just keep incrementing, like just a number for whatever iteration? Maybe that's better.
Yeah.
So maybe we do that because I think like we may even decide later to move from a weekly model to into a daily model, right? Then we just, you know, like who knows? So could do that. And then the next question is like, what do we tag when we create the omnibus build? What will the tag look like? And that is like another. Unless if the omnibus keeps track of all of the SHAs from all the sources, which it doesn't currently, keeps track of like the versions, right, which are correspond to tags. Or does it? Does it have the SHAs as well? I forget. Does the omnibus have like that in its manifest file, like the SHAs of?
It does. It does have all the SHAs.
But when I kick off the omnibus pipeline, I still think that information needs to be communicated to omnibus.
It does.
Like, right, and I think we use tags for that right now. It's my
Right now we're using tags, and then tags get resolved into SHAs inside of the.
Yeah. So I think we do need to tag, and then it's like, okay, how do we tag? And I don't have any idea other than like a date timestamp. Which I know you hate.
Again, you know why I'm hating this? Because we used to have that in Omnibus. And it was really terrible. It was terrible. It made things so much more difficult for us to try and understand what's happening. And we also ran into like a really silly situation where we had a build created at the same time. Like there was not enough milliseconds in our build, so it only got like minutes and seconds, and we created builds at the same time.
Oh, that sucks.
So you know where you go, like you go into that, and then it starts unraveling, right? Like the more and more you think about it, that's also one of the reasons why I don't like it. How about something super silly, but based on what we currently have? So we keep a major minor inside of the branches, and we replace the stable or the weak names with -pipeline ID of the pipeline that created this build. So you can just go.
Which pipeline, though? Like
release tools pipeline.
Release tools pipeline, okay.
Because that pipeline has, as we know, information about all of the versions that we want.
I like that. Okay.
And yeah, that should give us like enough understanding of what got cloned, what at which point, and so on and so on.
Yeah, I like it. And it's okay. I'm down. I think I'm down with that. So we use that for the tag. Whenever we do a tag, we're going to use the pipeline ID, which we'll have from in the release tools CI job. So we'll just use that.
We can do that, or we can do also the branch name as well.
So
basically, you can have the slower running pipeline ID for the branch, as in on Sunday the release tools automatically created this branch, and then when it actually tagged Omnibus, it can also have like every time we tag, it has the in the tag it has the pipeline ID of that specific tag. So we have consistency across branch/tag, and you have always an idea of where to go for information if you do need to go to get information.
Okay, just make sure I'm on the same page. 11:10, week one, Sunday night or Sunday morning. The first CI job kicks off, which creates the branch. And the name of the branch will be 11-10. And instead of stable, it'll have the pipeline ID of the release tools pipeline that
Correct.
created the branch.
Yep.
Okay. So now it's, okay, so let's fast forward to Monday after Sunday. So Monday, the branch already exists. Now we have this job that's going to build a new package to get it to staging, because we're doing this every day on that branch, because people are, I assume, like every day people are tagging MRs for picking into the release. So what would the tag look like? It'd be 10.10-11 or something dash the pipeline ID of the branch, or the pipeline ID of the tag.
So
jobs?
here is where this can become really super interesting, Jara.
Yeah.
So if we say that on Sunday we created automatically that branch 1110 dash pipeline ID of the release,
Yep.
right? We can automatically commit this to Omnibus, and then we don't have to care anymore, because every time we want to tag a new release, it's going to have a stable branch, and it's just going to always pick up whatever the latest is in there. And we can name the tag whichever way we want. We don't even have to change anything, honestly. We can leave the same package name that we currently have in the comment I written out to you, because it's going to have the pipeline ID of Omnibus, and it's going to have the SHA of Omnibus.
I see. So you're saying at that point, you're saying that we'll just fetch the latest commit on that branch when we build the Omnibus package, and we don't even need to tag?
Yeah, we don't even need to tag. Yeah, we don't even need to tag.
Okay.
So let me share my screen again, just not again, for the first time, I guess, to look at the same comment. So this comment here that I left about the package name, right? So the reason why this works for us is because this branch, the branch made out of this commit in Omnibus, has a version file inside of that branch, and that branch, that version file points to a certain endpoint. In master, it's going to be master. In development branches, it's going to be whatever users or developers set. So if we say that this new branch is our source of truth, and version file says it's 1110-pipeline ID, every time you trigger a build, it's going to be created in this format. So you don't even have to tag it. You can just have things running in scheduled pipelines. So basically, it will say which name it is. It will say which development cycle we are in. It will say in which pipeline ID of Omnibus it got created, and on top of which commit. So you then just need to have the scheduled pipeline creating packages off of that branch.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I think it works. I mean, the only thing I don't like is that there's a bit more indirection to figure out. Like, I want to see the GitLab CE source tree for what's deployed on staging. I think to do that, right, I would need to check out the commit of Omnibus, look at the version manifest, right? And then from that, then get the SHA.
This is if you want to find out the information, right? Like, that's what you're looking for. So for that, I'm now more than happy to include this one issue. Give me 1 sec to find it. Where we can now say that this becomes part of this epic. And I remember you telling that you kind of liked that at some point in time. And it's this issue, found it. Sending it to your Slack. Oh, no, sorry, that's the wrong one. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Where is it? You remember I had an issue, well, you may be not remembering it, but there was an issue I created about having a chatops command that will just list the versions deployed.
Yeah,
And this is why we also
would be
created,
nice.
that's why we also created that board as well, Grafana board.
Yeah, this is nice. I mean, I could see that. So you basically you give it the
you just create like a silly endpoints saying like chatops, what's on staging now? And it will list
right.
you a bunch of SHAs and links. Give you
Right, and to do that, it just needs to check out the omnibus package at the SHA that's in the version.
Not even. You have this now. You have this information in Grafana, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
In
well, we have it. So we have semantic versions, but I don't think we have SHA versions.
We have SHA versions. Scarpack implemented that.
Oh, in the omnibus pack, yes, we do. Like right in this janky cron job, yes. So yeah, we can. Yeah, no, I made it, so it's fine. Initially, yeah. So yeah, you're right. We can pull this from Prometheus. This gives you the SHA versions of all the different components.
Yep.
So okay, I think I'm down with this. So basically, we just create the branch every Sunday. And then we kick off an omnibus build, and it will pull the latest commits. And like getting the latest, yeah.
So what we can also do is we say that whatever gets added to the branch, right? Like whatever we pick into there, we'll have a scheduled pipeline on staging once a day, creates a package, deploys it just from there.
Right.
So we get to a point where things build up until, I don't know when we create, when we push this to Canary. And then when we push to Canary, we just kind of go down that route between staging and Canary, deploying those things. And then come Monday, we just promote that final package that was deployed.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I kind of like this. Like, you merge it to this branch, and then and then eventually it just goes to staging.
Yep.
But like it's tricky, right? Because you have GitLab CE and GitLab EE that need to be coordinated. I'm not sure if that would even work.
Why? You're thinking because of the CE stuff that needs to get into EE at some point, right?
Well, not at some point, but needs to before it's deployed, right?
True.
And you have CE changes with EE counterparts that need to be coordinated, right? Like they need to be merged.
Right, but what I'm trying to say here is we are all of a sudden switching, not all of a sudden, sorry. We are now switching from caring about two projects to caring about one project, GitLab EE in this case. And it would be up to the developer to ensure that whatever needs to happen gets into master of CE and EE.
So we need a merge train for each of these branches then, because there's some changes that don't have EE counterparts, right? There's some changes that just go into CE. So if the EE pipeline is what kicks off the build to staging, you would need the merge train to happen on this branch.
But merge train happens every 10 minutes anyway for master.
On master, it doesn't happen on these branches.
Correct, but we are saying that we want to ensure that we can pick into those stable branches, right?
Yes.
Stable, like weekly branches. I don't know how to call them.
Whatever. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. So, but so in order for the staging build to happen automatically, as soon as I merge a change into the CE branch, the weekly branch, then something needs to automatically merge that into the EE branch, and then from that kick off an omnibus build to go to staging.
Okay, right? We are not understanding each other most likely here.
Okay.
Give me 1 sec to answer my brother, by the way.
Sure.
All right, so step back. A tiny step back. I think for our use cases, we only care about GitLab EE, right? Like, because that's what we deploy.
Yes.
So that is where the stable branch or where the weekly branch is going to be created off of.
It has to be created in both GitLab CE and EE, right?
Why?
Because we're frozen on GitLab CE, just like we're frozen on GitLab EE, and it has to remain stable. Like, we have to have a branch to commit CE changes that will be merged into EE, right?
So this is where I'm thinking that I'm probably missing an edge case, but this is where I was thinking, no, this is where I was thinking we are depending on master now. So whatever ends up in master, this is where we create like weekly branches in GitLab EE get created from GitLab EE master. That means any fix you get into CE needs to go into master of CE. And merge train will then get that change into master, and then that commit that is now in EE master will need to end up in EE weekly branch, right?
I see. So you're only freezing. The thing is that, well, okay. I see. I see where you're going. It's just that I'm trying to make sure that the developer handles the conflicts. I'm just worried that master receives some refactoring during the week of a source file that needs to be updated, and we're not going to see that conflict until after the merge train like moves the commit over to EE, and then we try to, and then I guess what we'll do is we would see that commit needs to be merged into the stable branch, the weekly stable, and then we'll, yeah. Okay.
So I'm trying to find a way to simplify
yeah,
things.
I see that. Yeah, it is. I like it. I just, I don't know if it's going to cause us a problem or not.
Me neither.
Yeah. I think for developers, it's probably a bit more straightforward to have a CE branch and an EE branch. But yeah. I don't know.
So that's something that we need to think about, but maybe not this very moment. Just FYI, I did check out merge train, and it shouldn't be that big of a deal to change or add an option in merge train to instead of target master, target any arbitrary branch that we want to supply it to. So for example, we could theoretically say this gets extracted into environmental variable, which if not set is master, but if set, you have in schedule pipelines, this is the name of the variable, and it's just going to be using that branch.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you have merge train, so let's say say we have two branch, or we have a branch in CE and EE. Yeah. Then it's just basically the merge train runs between those two branches during the week, and then the EE build kicks off the omnibus build, and then like that. So okay, I think I have enough to go on for now. I think we at least we can get started on. We need to create this weekly job to create the to create the branch using the pipeline ID, release tools. So yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. I'll write up what we talked about, and then we'll just hopefully get. I think we can start this week, unless if there's something else. You want to start this week?
No. Okay. This week you have a pretty big 2 items. Like one item is getting the release through the door, and this just creating all of the issues, like defining them as well. Get this thing started.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. Jar, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but I kind of recorded this call, so I can share it with you after it's done, so that you can maybe run through it and have things for the issues.
Great. Thanks, man.
Perfect. All right. I'll chat with you later.
Ciao. Bye.
Thanks.